Hey, everybody, welcome to the Engadget podcast for the week of, it looks like it's August the 5th. My name is Brian Heater. I'm joined by, I think for the first time, Joseph Volpe is on my right. And this is one of those, like, are they the same person? We've never seen them in the same room at the same time.
It's true. I always thought that if I sat too close to you, our particles would just sort of absorb.
Matter and antimatter?
Yeah, exactly.
Colliding?
I get to be antimatter.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've been busy, so we brought you on the show this week to talk about one of the things that you've reviewed recently.
Yes, my new book called The Girl with Three Legs.
Yeah. What is the third leg, and where does it sit on the body?
You know, that's the mystery. It's actually a picture book. It's a really large picture book, and there are illustrations I can't show you because they're invisible.
So, no spoilers on the show today?
No, but if you douse this with lemon juice, you'll be able to see where the third leg is at some point.
It's invisible ink.
Yeah.
Book.
Dana actually wrote one of the blurbs on the back.
Dana Woolman is on my left. Hey, Dana. Been busy writing blurbs for books, I see.
Yeah, I'm multifaceted that way. I have lots of hobbies.
What did you like about Joseph's new picture novel, The Girl with Three Legs?
Pictures were very detailed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Almost too detailed.
Yeah, upsettingly detailed.
Yeah.
I could be a little obsessive. I don't
Sure.
know.
We brought you on the show today to talk specifically about the Moto X.
This?
Is that what we're calling it?
The Moto X here. This is awkward.
Yeah.
I know I've seen things on Twitter. Somebody actually, I think it was Ina,
Yeah.
who she tweeted a photo and it was Moto X and there was an actual
Like the kerning,
ox.
the kerning was a little off.
The kerning?
Yeah, that's a space between the letters.
Oh,
it's a
I didn't know
typeface
that.
thing, Joseph.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that. But look here, that's active display, and you can see, hey now, look at that. A little preview of my email. So this is the Moto X.
So here's the thing. Do you understand that I can't see it? That's not as important as the
Here.
fact that people... No, but it's the fact that the people at home, if they're listening to the audio podcast, that also they can't see it.
Well, if you're watching now live on the YouTube stream, and you're not an idiot...
There you go. So it's a reward for people who are watching the show live.
Can see it, yeah.
Let's start with the bottom line and work backwards. So
Sure.
everybody who's tuning in for that can tune out after the first 3 minutes of the show. What do you think of the phone?
I love it.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, and I have to say, I didn't buy it, and I think that's probably why I like it so much. If I were not a tech journalist with access to new phones, and I had to go into a store with my 2-year upgrade, or off contract price and decide whether or not I would buy this, and I weren't on AT&T, I would not buy it because you don't have access to Moto Maker, the customization website,
Which is one of the best parts.
which is the best. I mean,
Yeah.
if we go back to, I think, 2006, 2007, Puma had launched a site where you could customize and create your own shoes.
Nike has one of those.
And Nike has Nike
Yeah.
ID. I made 3 pair of Puma. I still have one at home. They're gold and like baby blue and white. They're really awesome. I'll wear them someday.
This is good. This is good for like a Miriam Joire who can walk around with 20 of the same phone in different designs.
Yeah.
Miriam, in fact, I think if Miriam had an unlimited budget,
Which I think she might. I don't know.
could.
I don't know what she's doing on the side.
She could. I think she has her own like hedge fund specifically to funnel money into making her phone dreams come true. But yeah, I mean, it really taps into that sort of aspect of self-styling things that I think the personalization that people, especially Americans, which is why it's only launching in America, we love that stuff.
We'll take us through the paces of Moto Maker. What does it entail? What can you do with the phone?
You know, I mean, I'm going to show this off for the camera here, so if you're watching, you can demonstrate, but also explain. So you get several options, right?
Yeah.
So the first one you can do is you can sort of customize the front face, and the front face will either come in 2 options, black or white. So that's just sort of pretty easy for you to choose.
Yeah, you can, for most phones, you can buy a black or white version.
Right, but that's only on the front. If you go around to the sides, you're also allowed to pick the accent trims.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very much, I wish I had the Droid DNA on me. You can see like the ring around the camera, on the sides, the edges of the phone. You can also pick colors there, and there are several different colors. And then even further, you can choose a different backplate
But can you
cover.
get wood, Joseph?
Well, it's never been a problem for me. I anticipate it might be in my older age,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe in Q4, if they manage to work out the prototype testing, I segue.
Right around the time Christmas rolls around, you'll be able to get wood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I get really. I rise to the occasion.
God bless
when
us, everyone.
presents are in the mix. Yeah, exactly.
And then let's talk about the phone. Can you get a
Sure.
wood backing on the phone?
So right now you cannot. I mean, Moto Maker, the one that we demoed at the launch, it does have the option in there. But for now, you can choose between warm, neutral, and cool colors. And if you have the those are the sort of 3 different categories I set up. And then the darker colors are more of a matte, and the lighter ones are silky, and it's all about like the oils in your hands and whatnot. They don't want that to show up. So,
this to me, it's crazy that it's taken this long for a mainstream phone manufacturer to figure this out, because
I agree. It's like
I'll take you back
proposition.
I'll take you back 3 years when Apple finally, after all sorts of weird technical flubs, finally comes out with a white version of the iPhone, and everybody freaks out, right? So color is obviously the way these handsets look mean a lot to you. You're gonna have this thing for 2 years, I guess, unless you're on the crazy T-Mobile plan.
Right, and then you can just chuck it when you jump.
Yeah. Get a different color every quarter.
Sorry, I'm just trying to throw Dana off by singing Pointer Sisters.
But this is, I mean, this is one of the things that we've been getting at for a while here, which is when you're using basically all the same components, when you've got the same constraints in terms of how big your phone can get, how high res the screen can get, how fast the processor is, how do you set yourself apart from everybody else?
So, this is something that we would talk on the mobile podcast about a lot. It's that plateau that you hit, right? So there's all these high-end specs. And I think yesterday's LG G2 launch was really important to highlight this, right? And I touched on it in the Moto X review, which is like, this is not a Halo product, right? It's not a tech Halo product.
There's no buttons on the back, for example.
But you thought it might be at first, given how hyped it was and how heavily leaked it was.
Right. I mean, the fact that Eric Schmidt was walking around getting photographed at the I'm the richest person in the world summit.
And obviously, Motorola had to kind of prove to people that they can make a high-end flagship device.
Right, and with Google's direct oversight on this. So, I mean, I really love the fact that for once you're finally seeing sort of a streamlined process where it's like, let's put features in, very few features that are actually useful to users. So it's not like Samsung where it's like, hey, we announced the GS4 and it does 17 things and you will never know how to use them or know that they exist. This only has like those 3 main ones, and it's not loaded up with like the craziest processor. It doesn't have a Snapdragon 800. It doesn't have the craziest display. But if I show this, I always use my sister as a test case. If I show this to her on the Droid DNA, she would not know one had a 1080p panel or the other had a 720p. Those words would not mean anything to her anyway, and that's what this phone is about. It's about being an excellent phone for your grandmother, for your mother, for your brother, for anybody.
It's Google's iPhone, basically.
Exactly. And although I hesitate to say that.
Everyone else has, Joseph.
I know. I called it the iPhone that isn't.
Yeah.
It's the A phone.
Right.
It's a G phone.
Right. It's well, we can segue into that later if we talk about the G2. I have a good point.
Sure. I mean, we're going to get around there eventually, but it's certainly, and we hit on this a little bit last week, but I don't think it makes sense for a company owned by Google to do a ton of skinning on top of the operating system that they're trying to sell, right?
Well, and that's a really good point you bring up, because in the past, and I remember at the Droid, you were there with me at the Droid Razr HD, Max, M launch, all that. That nomenclature makes it crazy.
So was Brian. That's the time I dropped a slot.
You were?
There was that weird running guy there.
No. That was the very first event I ever had gone to with you guys.
Yeah.
That was the Droid Razr.
I think that was the time
not
I was
the
eating
Razr
a slider
HD.
and dropped it on my computer while doing my coverage.
She ate a hamburger off the floor.
I ate it off my palm rest of my laptop.
That was the other time she ate off the floor. I apologize.
And you nicknamed her
That's how I know I was there, people. Anyway,
Wallman.
Sorry to derail.
No. Do you remember you nicknamed her I'll Eat It?
I'll eat that, Dana. I'll eat that woman. Yeah, that was. But
woman.
let's get back to why he went down that road.
Well, that was 2 Droid Razrs ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the last one, the Droid Razr HD, the HD Max, and the Razr M. At that launch, they had talked about how it was close to stock, but still very lightly skinned Android build, and it was. I mean, Dana uses the Razr M as her daily driver, has ever since. I used it for a while, and the icons were different throughout. There were a little bit different tweaks in the settings menu.
That was before Google owned them.
That was, the whole process was pending.
So that was right, I mean, I think Eric Schmidt was in the front row for that one. But it wasn't.
It was way past the days of Moto Blur, which was horrendous.
Yes,
Motorola's
exactly.
old, long non-skin.
But my point being that they were developing this phone long before Google's got their claws in it.
I mean, the important point about this particular phone, the Moto X, is that this is the very first one that Google finally got to come in and say, okay, now we're helping you make this phone with our vision. And it shows. I mean, every sort of design decision in here, it just makes sense. It's the sort of ideology that I think Google outputs, and the design by no means is impressive. I think the black and white standard models that you'll get on all 5 carriers are kind of boring. I
think it's a nice looking handset. It reminds me of the HTC One a bit.
It's right. Well, I think it's actually a lot more reminiscent in a way of the DNA and the 8X in terms of like the pyramid back and the stepped battery, because this is all
It's a nicer looking phone than some of Samsung's handsets.
Oh yeah, no, I mean
it's a nice looking phone.
No Samsung handset is nice.
Yeah.
I will go on record and say that. they're hideous.
Can't wait to see those comments.
You're welcome. Bring it.
You just wrote off literally 500 phones.
It's cool. Yeah, well, right 500. That's conservative estimate. Yeah. Come
on. So beyond customization, I mean, otherwise it's pretty standard off the shelf.
So phone. I think the other thing, and a lot of this was sort of a narrative a lot of the tech press went with was, it's weakly spec'd, right? It's under spec'd. It's got these mid-range specs, and this is the Google phone from Motorola, and how could it be? And it's like, come on.
But is this really a mid-range phone?
It's if you were to line it up against what we consider like the high end and whatnot, it would come that way because it's got the Snapdragon.
This is
S4
you
Pro.
made that argument
middle class.
In a way. You didn't harp on the specs, but you did harp on but you did emphasize that you thought the price was too high.
Right. And I think that's the problem, right? Because this phone, if it were lesser than the $199 price, I would have 100% giving it the most glowing review ever. But if you're saying, all right, average consumer, go to the store, here's $200, 2 years of your life, you can have this, or you can have like this high bleeding edge tech of the HTC One. I'm going to buy this.
There's nothing to set it apart.
No, I mean, you don't go into a car dealership and say, okay, I can get that Ferrari or I can get the Honda.
And that's where Apple has an advantage, because actually Apple's iPhone is priced on par with a flagship Android phone. It isn't necessarily better spec'd or equally spec'd,
right,
but there's only one flagship iPhone, and there are plenty of great Android options, and I think that is the difference here.
Yes, exactly. And also you have the premium craftsmanship from Apple with Johnny Ive, and it's like the beautiful construction. It is like objet d'art, it's beautiful to look at. So
what about the Max?
What do you mean? The Droid Max?
Yeah.
The Droid Max, I went, I ran to that launch sort of last minute, and I had the best time because it was at Lincoln Center, and it was that super warm day. All the ballerinas were outside practicing, and I was like, I'm just going to take 5 minutes and watch them. Anyway, I know it was an aside, but the Droid Max is actually really lovely. I mean, I sort of have a built-in hatred of it because it's coming from as a Verizon-only, phone, and that's sort of their thing, and, I think Verizon is the devil, but it's a great phone. And essentially, the crazy thing is all those new Droids and the Moto X, they're the exact same phone. The exact same phone. It's just difference in screen size and the body.
Yeah, and the battery life is crazy on that thing, right?
Oh, that one's a full 48 hours.
Yeah,
Not bad on the Moto X though. Either.
No, the Moto X is fantastic. It's still going. I can tell you right now.
But I think that certainly sets us apart from a lot of other handsets on the market right now. That's a big deal, right? I mean, this is one thing. This is a base level thing that handset manufacturers.
20 hours right now.
It's crazy
on a single charge, and I still have 42% battery left.
And is it because of the lower res screen, do you think?
Yeah, well, so that's when I talked to to Leo Ron, who's the CVP for Motorola, and he came from Google. He manages product. He explained, right? He was like, okay, you don't need 1080p because a lot of consumers won't notice the difference, right? But also, like you said, it has much less of an impact on battery life. So yeah.
But that to me, I mean, if I'm again, I agree with you on the specs, but if I'm just a regular consumer walking in off the street, that's something I'm paying attention to. Is if this thing is actually going to get me through a day or even 2 days ultimately.
Right. And that's something I think we argued for many years on the Mobile podcast that these manufacturers should forget about. I don't care about the best screen tech. I don't care about the highest processor, because at a certain point you can only multitask so much that a processor.
And how do you need a super high def video when you're watching in your phone? I mean, you're making compromises with screen size already.
Exactly. I mean, if you're using something like the Optimus G Pro, that makes sense to me. I used to bring that to the gym and rewatch the new season of Arrested Development, which I know Brian hates.
Which you need in really high res to get all those jokes.
Well, I mean, when you watch it the third time, you catch just a little bit more. So. Yep, I'm completely agree with you on that end. And like I said, this needs to be Moto Maker for all. Like every carrier should have it.
Yeah.
Because it would fly off the shelf.
This is going to be a thing moving ahead. I mean,
yeah.
obviously, a lot of it depends on how well this phone ends up doing. But I think, once Motorola gets this started, I think we're going to see a lot of other handset manufacturers, especially your LGs, your HTCs, a lot of these companies that are really trying to break into the market. Samsung doesn't need to right now.
No.
Obviously, Apple has no desire to let people to let people modify their handsets.
Although I'm not giving any credence to those iPhone 5C standing for cheap, I guess, rumors. But I mean, that's sort of been the whole spin on that, right? Is that Apple's going to do like the whole iPod Nano strategy, give it all these different colors. And that's one way to do it because you can pre-select. But I think actual customization, the fact that you can put a personalized message on back and the wallpaper, that's all very, very different. And I think...
Yeah, which again is something Apple would never. Apple's not going to let you put leopard print on the back of your...
No, they won't. No, and so that's a good point you bring up. So one of the things that we saw when we were in the closed, the briefing that they had was this image, and it wasn't
going behind the scenes here today.
We're going very behind the scenes. So it was they showed us a mock-up of what will come, and at no specified point in the future. And I tried to reconfirm this with them, and they were like, "We just want to show you our direction." And it was a Facebook page that had, I wouldn't say millions, but it had tons of crazy designs. I mean, there was one that, the only one I remember made me laugh was called The Dude. And it was this like goldish brown hue. I mentioned it in the preview.
Like a Big Lebowski?
Yeah,
sort of?
it was called The Dude. And I started laughing to myself like, that's funny. But there was a leopard print.
Sure.
There were crazy ones. And you can vote. And it's a crowdsourced way of pushing options forward on Moto Maker.
Well, I mean, you can really kind of see this to its logical conclusion, which is, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, I think, to bring artists on board to let people do, specialized versions.
I would get what's his name, Miyazaki?
Sure.
The one...
The Totoro?
Yeah, him. And then there's, oh my goodness, I use him for my wallpaper all the time. He does like the crazy looking creatures with Louis Vuitton. He did the whole... Do you guys know what I'm talking about? LV? I have to Google this.
I'm going to wait for Brian to, complete your sentence. Waiting.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No. I'm not.
Murakami. That's
Murakami, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I would totally have one designed by him.
You said something French before.
Did I?
Yeah.
No, I said...
Louis Vuitton.
Louis Vuitton. Yeah, because he did...
okay.
Murakami did the
I mean,
LV
you could see a
bags.
Louis Vuitton. You could...
I wouldn't want...
I
wouldn't want LV all over
but I mean, this makes a lot of sense as an initiative. Bring some cartoonists on, bring some designers on, bring some Etsy people on.
Yeah, you can immediately make this like a couture phone.
And then how far out are we from just letting people do their own dumb thing on the back of their phones?
Well, I mean, that's all about, I guess, like the assembly process and how easy that would be for them. You know what I mean? Whatever quality and I don't know the costs involved there. Because when you see those like cases that you send away for whatever, they look like
they're crummy.
Yeah, they're
I agree. But I don't think being able to print that out and being able to have a nice matte finish, hey Terrence, is going to be a big problem moving ahead.
The pride of Staten Island has arrived, everybody.
Wow.
He poked his head in.
I think we got about half of Staten Island's population in this room right now.
That's true.
Are you want to take your leave?
I like it here.
Well, see, this is what's problematic, Joseph, is you could have been on the whole show, but
you made me talk.
That's the point of a podcast, buddy.
I know.
I can take my leave and have like a beer or something, and Terrence,
will you bring us a beer?
Terrence can. Am I going to be your waitress in front of
all
these readers?
How do we want to handle this? We could put this up to. I'm going to put this up to readers. Readers, you tell me, Joseph or Dana, who's exiting the show?
They're going to vote for me because I'm in red shorts, but what about what Dana wants?
That's a really good point.
Joseph in red shorts. Somebody in chat brings up the fact that Vertu lets you customize your phones.
Yeah, I was actually going to say...
I don't think hot glue gunning some diamonds to it.
No, I was going to say this will blow Vertu out of the water.
Yeah.
I mean... First of all, the Vertu phones are like crap phones that just have
they're low spec crummy phones that are tens of thousands
for rich people that don't know any better.
Have you been to the Vertu store in Las Vegas? It's in one of the hotels, and there's never anybody in there.
Of course not.
What is the business model? Is it just we sell? It's like if
we sell because we can.
Well, no, it's like if you ever go into one of those little like boutique stores in like the Lower East Side, and there's one person staying there, and they sell two things, and
Yes,
Okay,
I have
Dana's
very
right.
much.
Yeah.
Dana, we miss you already.
Maybe I'll bring you beer.
She's gonna bring us beer.
Let's edit all this out.
But you're not.
I'm gonna chat room. Dana left on her own. Dana
Sorry.
clearly was uncomfortable with all this
sorry.
standing on top.
We did. Joseph makes everybody uncomfortable.
No, Brian brought up the sock party conversation way before this.
Well, before the podcast started.
started.
My point being that I think there are certain companies that exist based on, if they can sell 2 things a year, then that'll keep them afloat.
Sure. I mean, I know there's that crazy luxury market for gadgets. So
Yeah.
And Christopher Trout, I think, has wanted to do something on that his entire career here, and he will at some point.
I would love to
Is he going to do a review of a Vertu phone? Is that what's going to happen? He's just going to use it for 6 months? Because I mean,
I think he'd just pose and take Instagram photos with it. I don't know if he'd actually use it.
Rich editors on Instagram.
An essay and GIFs.
I would love to do an interview with the one person who bought the Vertu phone.
That one person would probably be a 13-year-old Russian girl.
The
daughter of an oil oligarch or something.
Right, exactly. Oh, there was something Plastinina. She was this really young, super loaded heiress, and she wound up having her own boutiques in New York, and they were crap. I know all this way.
Shrug. No idea.
Let's move on to the.
I'm gonna look it up.
I don't want to move on. I want to talk about Russian heiresses.
I'm sorry. Well, you guys can do that on your other podcasts.
We have a podcast completely dedicated to Russian heiresses now.
Kira
Right?
Plastinina.
Okay, good. I'm glad that we cleared
there you
up
go.
that
She's in her
really important piece of
mid-teens.
information.
Barbie pink clothing stores.
Let's move on to the
There you
LG
go.
G2.
Yes. So before we even talk about any of the specs,
Oh
of
yeah,
that
no.
thing,
Before we talk about this phone,
I want to highlight something really important
Yep.
for mobile geeks, which
Okay.
is, you may remember once upon a time on T-Mobile, there was such a thing known as the HTC G2. And it was a slider phone, and it had that weird hinge lock that if you were laying on your bed, it would actually flap back down.
that was the original Android phone.
No.
It's
The
not
T-Mobile
G2.
G1.
The G1.
G1
That was
which,
the Dream. That was the original one. The
T-Mobile
G2.
yes.
Well,
yeah.
it was the Dream, but it was also the G1.
Right.
In
Yeah.
different
And
parts of
T-Mobile,
the-
right.
I can't.
And the G2 is the
Okay.
successor. And so they're
So
ripping off the name.
What you're saying is that here's what I'm going to say. There's a limited number of letters in the alphabet,
Yeah.
And only so many numbers.
and only so many numbers up to 10. I mean, okay,
Yeah.
there are unlimited numbers, but once you get past a few digits, it gets
Well,
tough.
they could have called it the GXL. I mean, they had the G2X. They could have called it the GXL.
GXL sounds like some kind of protein powder you buy.
They probably could have avoided the whole thing just by keeping the Optimus too. I'm not
That is
entirely
true.
sure why that went.
I guess because it doesn't have any resonance in this U.S. market. I mean,
Well, does LG really have much resonance in the U.S. market as a cell phone company?
it has way more than Toshiba as a tablet maker.
That's fair enough.
There you go.
We were discussing the other day the overlap of people who probably both own an LG phone and a Kia car, and how they probably don't care about life at all.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
He sent that to me in text.
They're driving around with their Daewoo.
I missed that. I missed that at dinner. But when you sent, I laughed. I think for a good 5 minutes because that is true.
It's clearly just like a functional thing. Nobody goes and lusts after a Kia. Nobody lusts after
This
an
is
LG.
a great phone, right? It looks great.
The
spec-wise,
G2.
yeah.
No, it's like
It's got buttons where usually there aren't
I don't
buttons.
know. I don't know cars. What's like a crazy, amazing, fast, flashy car that would just? Oh my god!
Ferrari?
It's the only one. It's the only brand.
Yeah, I mean,
I
just
mean,
go with that.
okay.
Sure.
So I don't wanna say Ferrari again,
Well, it's
but-
a Maybach.
Well, but isn't a Maybach just more like
that's a hip thing to
comfort
reference.
and luxury of sitting on a couch in your car because you're Madonna?
Yeah.
It's a super fancy,
Yeah.
expensive
Anyway,
car.
that's what the G2 is to me. The LG G2 is like that ultra high end luxury automobile that
Okay.
not everyone's going to buy or even be aware of.
Yeah, it seems more to me like
It's not going to be priced like a luxury car.
Well, we don't know yet.
it's like a
It's
Ford,
not going to be priced.
well,
like
it's
a
not
luxury
going to be thousands of dollars, but it might. It
It's-
could be $299.
it's like a Ford Escape. It's like a wannabe Escalade kind of thing.
There you go. That's a more apt analogy.
It aspires to it, but it doesn't have the brand recognition
No.
or anything else to actually meet that.
Right.
It is interesting. Everybody does know LG, and probably everybody's had an LG handset at one point.
Yeah, but it's not the one that you go in
My-
looking
yeah,
for.
I
It's
mean,
what
my
you
chocolate.
buy when you go in
I
there.
miss my chocolate so badly.
Uh,
Had a little Doraemon charm. on
okay, so let's back up. Let's back up a couple weeks. Let's back
Okay.
up to the fact
it.
that
Should we do hand motions for back?
yeah,
up?
let
Okay.
make
Somebody
a-
want to
make
run
a
around the
rewind.
room and make it spin
I
backwards?
nominate Terrence.
Let's back up a few weeks to before this launch and the fact that this phone was everywhere before the launch.
Oh,
That
LG.
everything had been leaked about this phone. We knew all the specs. We knew the case.
I leaked
LG
it.
said
I leaked the
G2
entire
in
phone.
all the
Yeah.
press
Yeah.
material, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember we were in the midst of our like amazing main retreat, and lovely images of the entire handset and like the specifications came through.
Which was what, like a month or two ago?
Yeah.
LG is very bad at keeping secrets. They couldn't keep the Optimus G a secret. They couldn't keep the Nexus 4 a secret.
Or the G
Now
Pro.
I think you're being I think you're being sarcastic there, because very clearly they went out of their way to leak this phone as much as possible to the press to get excitement up around it, right?
I think that they know that they don't have that brand recognition, so they're like, we need to get this out there as
It's just
consistently
a
as
decent
possible
way
so
to
people
game
pay
the
attention.
system, though, right? I mean, they know that
We write
people
about
like
it.
us are going to write about it,
And we do.
So why not leak some of this information?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get, again, and not because LG doesn't make good handsets, they're just not as prominent.
Right.
They're not like a Samsung where everybody's going to be watching it. They're not like an Apple where everybody's going to be watching. They're not even like an HTC.
No.
So
where people watch but don't buy.
HTC has the respect, right?
Yeah.
But doesn't certainly
Why doesn't
resonate with the actual.
Why
retailer.
doesn't LG have their strike? Just because they're more new to this making
No,
a good
because
phone thing?
LG has always had this dismissive attitude towards the mobile market, where they would make a nice phone and then they would completely abandon it. Like, they would never service it with software updates, and sometimes build quality was hit or miss.
Well, I think it goes beyond that. I think it goes to the fact that, as we said before, LG has been in the phone game for a long time. So
Really
people associate them with not good phones. People associate them with phones that aren't.
Well, they were
flagship
also really
phones.
late to the smartphone
I was
game
going to
too.
say, especially
they were
here.
big when people were carrying flip phones and you were texting on a number pad.
Right.
But when smartphones really started to break, LG really took their time in getting around to entering that market.
So let's let's take a closer look at this phone, and is there anything on here that's really that does set it apart? I mean, obviously they went out of their way to add some things to it that made it interesting at the very least. They've got you wrote about the software. They've got the kind of like, what is it, knock it to turn it on.
Yeah,
Knock-on.
the knock-on thing, which is pretty good. What was the other?
Although not unique.
Not unique, not 100% unique, but it's a nice touch. I appreciate it,
right.
especially if you're going to inconveniently locate the button on the back.
Inconveniently,
Well,
that was a lot of focus testing, though.
We'll move on to that in a second.
Okay.
Don't blow your load.
But yeah, I mean, they've gone out of their way to skin it, and there's some interesting stuff on there.
That's a double-edged sword, though, because they go out of their way to add all of these features, and they're quickly becoming like Samsung, where there's so much that they're throwing at it. It's literally just like throwing stuff at a wall to see what sticks.
I mean,
and half the features are really kind of half-baked, or they're not very useful. The knock-on one is useful. I've yet to...
Answer Me was the other.
The Answer Me, I kind of get. That's nice.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm saying Moto X makes sense, right?
Yeah, they picked a couple of key things,
3.
focused on
3.
them, really perfected them
Yeah,
basically, and then
sure.
threw them in and said, we're not going to mess with the rest of it.
Right.
Whereas LG and Samsung just go, we're going to see however much crap we can cram into this phone, and literally never bother to update any of it. Just, we have a memo application, enjoy. And then it's the same memo application for like 3 years.
You're right, it is. They keep pimping that memo application. Even in the hands-on video, they're like, and you can see here we have the quick memo, and I want to know who uses that. Nobody.
Well,
people who don't people who don't care what phone they buy and accidentally buy an LG.
I guess
that's
if
who
they know it's there.
Sure. I mean, I guess the difference between what Motorola is doing, and it makes sense that Motorola is doing this, is they're adding things that you could actually see becoming a part of Android in the future.
Which I wanted to, so I should showcase for you guys here, because I never had a problem with this, right? And I had a lot of people test it. Now,
this is can you knock this phone to turn on?
You can't, but I can go like this. Okay, Google
I'm
now.
done.
Sorry. Okay, Google now.
Ah!
And see, it wakes up.
Great.
So when you first set that up, there's a 3-step personalization process and a decibel meter, and it won't let you record until you're safely in like a lower volume area. I did it in our game room, and it was completely silent. And
So you don't have the Google Glass problem.
No, and I think that's why. I think because it was so able to acutely get my voice.
Yeah.
So I want you guys to try, because every time I tested it, nobody could launch it. So go ahead.
Well, isn't it supposed to be customized specifically to your voice?
Well,
Yes,
wait.
but other reviews were saying people were able to trick it, and I'd never had that experience.
Is that voice recognition? Is that just not built into Google Glass at this point?
With Google Glass, you say okay Glass.
No. In terms of recognizing your voice specifically, because it's really easy to trick.
I don't
Google
think
Glass.
that there's a setup process on Glass.
Which
It's
seems
just it
crazy,
understands
right?
the words, but not your
Yeah.
voice.
Which
It
seems
does.
crazy.
It seems insane.
Try. Terrence is going to try.
Okay, Google now.
Nope, didn't work. Sorry, Brian.
Okay, Glass. Okay, Google now. Oh,
Nope, that's active
no.
display.
Duh. Okay, Google now. Okay, Google now.
And I will try. Okay, Google now.
Great.
Immediately. So you
job.
see, it's foolproof.
Yeah. But would you rather? Would you rather talk to your phone or knock it on? Because I don't really see myself talking to my handset. very
Yes,
much.
and I think I made that point in the review, which was it was neat for me. I like to ask it who is Jennifer Aniston, and it speaks it back to me. I don't know why it cracks me up every time, but I don't.
got some
I'm not
idea.
particularly a
Is
fan.
Is it the pronunciation, the
Yes.
computerized voice just saying Jennifer
Yes.
Aniston?
And just whatever the Wikipedia entry says about her makes me laugh.
You can follow that up actually with like a question without
I'll do it
repeating
right now.
her
I'll do it
name,
right
right?
now. Here.
Do
Yeah,
it.
you can ask it a question.
Because it
so what?
understands
Stop
your
talking. Start
Okay.
Aniston.
Okay, Google now. Who is Jennifer Aniston? It's processing.
Sure. You can hear the gears spinning.
According to Wikipedia, Jennifer Joanna Aniston is an American actress, film director, and producer.
I don't
Did
know
it
why.
again. It did it again.
It cracks
It did
me
it
up.
again.
Cracks me up. So, yeah. So that's Google Now. Touchless control.
Speaking of touch control, so I haven't played with it. I haven't played with the G2. I don't think anybody here has had a chance to yet.
I have
it
not.
doesn't seem super intuitive that all these buttons are located on the back of the device, but apparently they focus grouped it.
You know, I was listening to what Miriam had to say on the mobile podcast because she was there.
How is your Miriam impression?
I don't have a good Miriam
Okay.
impression. I honestly don't.
You should work on that.
That is something I should, and I've never thought to do that.
Can you do it in a different voice?
I probably could if I'm given time and I listen to the mobcast. I can probably
Just do.
it.
I'm saying just do a voice to explain this. Doesn't have to be Miriam's voice.
Any sort of voice.
Any voice.
No, that'll detract from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Carry
So anyway,
on.
the point is, Miriam was raving about how amazingly intuitive this placement is, and how she thinks it's disruptive in the way that, going forward, all manufacturers don't make that face. All manufacturers are going to be including that as sort of
Really?
the standard button layout.
Yeah?
On the back, because she said that's where your finger naturally rests. It makes sense, and you can hotkey it to whatever you need. So I know. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I never touched the phone, so I don't have.
I don't
that.
think I've ever held my phone like this ever. This
Yeah,
is
especially because the camera's right there. But I mean, so this is what they were saying in the press conference was basically that, you know, the reason. What was it? The reason why you drop your phone isn't your finger's fault. It's the placement of the buttons.
I favorited a lot of tweets making fun of
But
that.
I mean, my thumb is on the side. I mean, that's a great place. The power is maybe a little slightly more difficult just because my fingers aren't on there naturally. But yeah, this is where I don't know. Maybe we're trying to do this.
well, here's the thing. On the Moto
Right?
X, there's
Entirely
this,
possible.
there's this indentation that your pointer finger does naturally rest in it, and I have been finding myself wanting to hold it like this specifically.
Okay.
It feels good, but at the same time, if this were an actual button that was
Yeah.
protruding, I don't think I'd be like, that's so comfortable.
And on top of that, do you really want your finger resting directly on that button?
No, because you would trigger it all
Right.
the time. Also, it's a 5.2-inch screen, so it's not this 4.7 inches. It's much unwieldier.
I do. I mean, I will give LG
more,
credit
sorry.
for trying something new. They get points for that at least, right?
sure.
Yeah,
You get a certain amount of points. It's you lose a certain amount of points though as well.
Yeah.
It's like +1 for trying something new,
I don't know.
+5 for
I'm
ruining years of ergonomic design.
I'm not going to pass judgment until I actually try the thing.
Yeah, no, and that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that I can't dismiss it because I haven't
That
held
said, literally nobody in the world is going to buy the phone based on where the buttons are.
it. No, and I don't think anyone's going to buy the phone. I don't want to say period, but I don't think they're going to buy it in volume.
Well, we'll
Let's
see
put
what
it
the
that way.
we'll see what the pricing's like. It's going to be on all the carriers. So
Well, how did the Optimus G do?
I think the Optimus G did very well in the press.
yeah,
But I don't
think-
think I've ever seen anybody who has one.
I haven't either, and
in
that's a good
China
point.
maybe. I mean,
Right, in Korea and China,
Yeah.
sure. I'm sure in Korea it's a really,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
really big hit.
But
'Cause it's
in
a
the US.
fantastic phone, right? I think the more important thing about the Optimus G is that the Nexus 4 is the Optimus G, and so that's where its success lies.
But
Right?
better.
But better. Although it chips or the paint fades on the perimeter, according to Matt and Miriam, theirs are ugly. So
I haven't
I
noticed.
know. Did you get one finally?
No, my sister
Oh,
has
yeah, that's
one
right.
though.
Your sister has it. Yeah.
All right, so that's the LG G2. Spec wise, looks like a great phone. It's a nice looking phone.
I mean, it
It's
has
interesting.
that super stunning all
Yeah.
HD, true HD IPS full.
Why are
Their
you saying
screen-
it like that? Why are you saying
because there's like
dismissively?
no.
It's
I'm
got
not
a
saying
nice
I'm making
camera,
fun of
it's
I'm
got a
making
nice
fun of the
screen.
marketing name.
Yeah,
behind
they
it. 'Cause it
throw a
has some,
bunch of
like,
marketing
yeah.
names on
Yeah.
everything. They make really nice screens, though. I mean, that
Yeah,
was
no,
the thing
no,
with the
I'm not
Optimus
knocking
G.
the
The screen
screen.
was stunning.
Yeah.
It was. I wish that I had that screen on every phone, on any other phone.
Okay, I'm
But
gonna,
you have to remember it eats battery.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bottom line this. Let's
Okay.
bottom line this.
All right.
It looks like a very good phone, but LG needs a lot more than that to really make a dent in the U.S. market.
I mean, I think what they need to do is for once make a super solid all around handset that doesn't reach so far above what most consumers want. Their mid-range products are always tossaways. They
But
really
isn't that,
are.
I mean, but isn't that kind of what you're saying for this? Is the problem here is that it's an upper mid-range phone?
no, the problem with this is
Is
the
the price.
price. That's it.
So we have yet
This-
to see.
This phone is perfect except for the price.
I mean,
And,
LG
and if it were, like I said,
Yeah.
caveated, if Moto Maker won all five carriers, the price would not be an issue.
if LG, I mean, they're a component maker, so certainly they're saving some money on that
Yeah,
end.
yeah,
Although
definitely.
I guess you could say the same about Samsung.
Yeah,
They're still
that's
charging
true.
a lot for the
That's
handsets.
true.
What for you is a price point that they could set that'll make it a really attractive phone?
Well, clearly, if they hit 199, that's reasonable, and I don't think anyone's going to.
That's what it's going to go for,
Right,
probably.
right. And if it goes to 199, that's fine. It's just like, how do you communicate to consumers that they should buy that phone?
Over.
The
Yeah.
HTC. I mean, at this point, I think we can all agree that HTC One has all the buzz, and GS4 has the mind share.
Yeah.
But I mean, buzz is a relative thing. It has
And buzz fades.
and it has buzz in the industry, but
Right.
way more people still know about the S4.
Well, right, and I think that's a good distinction to make. That when I say buzz, I mean like a lot of the early adopters of the super tech savvy
Sure.
will get the HTC One.
Are we
and
talking
basically-
CNET buzz or are we talking Jay-Z buzz? Because those are two totally different kinds of buzz.
I don't know Jay-Z buzz. What is that?
That would be the S4.
What is?
They gave away $1 million.
Oh
albums
yeah. I forgot about that because I don't.
He's a rapper.
I don't know that stuff.
Yeah.
If you're not a French ex-model, singer-songwriter married to Nicolas Sarkozy, I don't care.
He's married to Beyonce. Well,
yeah,
not
I don't
married,
like
but
Beyonce
yeah.
either. So
Really?
past
Are you
Crazy
a
in Love
human
now.
being?
I am.
I'm
living and breathing.
genuinely
I
shocked
read
to
about
hear
Beyonce's
that.
new hairdo, but it looks like Miley Cyrus's, which looks like Rihanna's, and looks like everyone before that.
Didn't she lose
so.
her hair in a fan?
Yes, I watched that. Clip.
I'm not kidding.
Yes,
Like,
she
I
did.
missed that
I
one.
did. I watched that.
I'm
clip.
not up on my celebrity.
She set.
No, she was performing.
Oh, no, I'm gonna-
She performed through it actually.
She. Oh man, I got somebody waiting in the lobby for me. This is problematic.
You want to go get them and we'll just keep this going? In the
Yeah.
meantime? All right.
Let me go.
Brian's going to go
Yeah.
run and do a
This
thing.
Get through.
This is
a first.
podcast.
Well, can you send somebody else to go get
I'm
them?
gonna send John Turret. Hi.
Okay.
I like how this is going.
Yeah, I like.
It's very haphazard.
I like real time. I like when hijinks happen.
I'm glad that I rushed here
What?
for this.
Well, you get to sit across from me.
Oh, no, it's true.
Yeah.
I did get rained on quite a bit, though. That was
I know.
fun.
You do look a little moist,
I'm a little damp.
which is not my favorite word.
Moist is a gross word.
Drew Barrymore, she hates the word moist. She hates.
I also hate that
moist.
this chair has no wheels. It's very tough.
I don't like that this chair. Look, it's too bendy. It's bad. I like to sit up straight, have a nice posture when I'm being filmed,
Yeah.
and when I'm having my voice recorded. It's really important.
So I got to see this. I have.
Yeah.
I have yet
So
to
you
actually
don't have
play
any
with this.
diseases, right?
At least none that you're going to catch from me
Okay.
merely touching the screen of your phone.
Oh,
Brian's back.
Brian's back.
What'd you talk about while I was gone?
How much we hate the word moist.
And how much Drew Barrymore hates it. She
Yeah.
doesn't like it.
What about like
I can talk like Drew Barrymore out of the side of my mouth.
All right. We are so far afield, but Joseph's on the podcast.
That's what
That's what
happens.
happens. Getting far afield isn't necessarily a bad thing. my
I want to
friend.
talk about Jeff Bezos before we close this.
I love him. I read Kara Swisher's open letter. I read the
I did not read
WAPO
that
dude's
yet.
open letter. I don't understand why people are freaking out. They should be so lucky. Like, look, New York Times says
Well-
Carlos Slim swooping in. What background does he have in digital?
But,
he doesn't.
But here's the thing. I mean, and I'm saying this from somebody who's worked at a lot of media companies in the past.
So have I.
And so I think you'll be able to understand this when somebody comes in from outside, especially like high tech. it's understandable to freak out about your job a
No,
little bit,
that-
especially if you're an old-timey newspaper
Yes,
person.
I know, but the point, and I think the narrative over the years has been, these old people need to let it go because that world is gone. You need to adapt, and there are ways to adapt that make sense, that people still can fulfill their roles. I think the fact that he bought it means that quality journalism will continue. It's like a guaranteed pledge that it will.
I mean, we'll see. I certainly have faith. He's a very smart, savvy business person. I think he knows what works about the Post.
I don't think he would have bought it with his personal fortune either if his sole desire was to destroy it and make a quick buck off of it.
I'm not saying destroy it, but I understand the concerns here because there's it's different running a newspaper in the tech space than it is, and you lose. I mean, and I'm not even talking about actual physical newspapers. I mean, let's be honest, those are going to be a thing in the past and in the not too distant future. But we're talking about really being able to go after a story, and that's something that the Washington Post has been good at. I mean, they're one of the last holdouts. It's them and the Times and a few other papers out there who actually
Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, who actually do like real
journalism.
Not
like us.
Well, I've embedded myself a few places.
It's a different kind of thing.
I mean,
right?
With an E.
This is like a good thing to highlight, right? When the Tribune Company was bought by Sam Zell, he came from a real estate background. He completely mishandled all the Tribune properties and wound up bankrupting them, and then got into a lot of heated, issues with the shareholders and sold off assets, and it was a big giant mess. That's not. I don't believe that's going to happen with Bezos.
And again, this is not specific to Jeff Bezos. This is just the direction everything's going in. But we're losing the ability to really chase a story because so much. Everybody's guilty of this. We've certainly been guilty of this from time to time. A lot of what happens out there is just kind of recycling of stories. I mean, that's reblogging. Yeah, let's be honest. That's the blog method right now, and newspapers are going in that direction. I certainly understand the fear here. I mean, he's got the money to invest to let people take their time to write those stories. But the question is, when we're talking about bottom line, does he see that as being profitable? Because at the end of the day, he is a businessman.
I don't think in the near future, no newspaper business is profitable. None. The New York Times is afloat because of Carlos Slim, right? They just sold off the Boston Globe properties. They're now rebranding the International Herald as the International New York Times. I remember I covered this years ago.
Awful name.
It is.
Yeah, I used to cover
it's like AOL
media.
UK, as we discussed this morning. It just doesn't make sense geographically.
Like all local papers died off. Look, our own company's laying off a whole bunch of people in Patch, right, for hyper-local stuff. So clearly the model needs to be figured out, and nobody's done it properly because the thinking has always been, here's an old media person coming in, or somebody outside of media who's still old business and not digitally native in the sense that their businesses weren't built from the ground up with that bent, trying to restore like the heydays of media in the newspaper industry, and that's not going to work. I mean,
and Bezos obviously doesn't have any interest in that. I mean, it's not.
No.
He reinvented book selling, for example.
Exactly. And that's a good point to make, right? Amazon, which doesn't really have any direct involvement in this, although I'm sure there's going to be a tie-in on Kindles going forward.
I'm sure it'll be pretty easy to get the Washington Post on fire.
Yeah. But I mean, look, Amazon was built off, it sold tremendously in terms of physical books. And now the majority of the business is ebooks, right? So he knows a thing or two about that sort of electronic distribution. And the printed word going onto the online media.
Yeah, but in order for that to happen, all these bookstores have gone out of business.
Well, we can we can kick and scream, and these people can continue to throw money into a pit, or we can remodel and move forward. People are always going to get laid off, right?
But here's the question, right? And I don't think anybody's answered this question because we've got to project a little bit down the road. Certainly, he's been able to make it successful on his end, but our authors, is it still viable to be an author? I mean, not that it ever really has been, but it seems to be
why
less
not?
so now.
I mean, it's apply the same to the music industry.
Sure.
Is it worthwhile to be an artist?
And it's not
particularly at all. I mean, it's probably a good metaphor on that end, but yeah, absolutely not. I mean, you don't, the argument is you're supposed to make all your money touring. You can't do that now. How much money are you making off of Spotify?
And what were you telling me that not that Joseph's gonna know who. Somebody was working in a record store.
Oh, I don't know if I should reveal that on the show.
Yeah,
A
relatively
popular
popular rock musician is training currently in a record store. Like, this is an unfortunate
we'll see.
reality.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, I agree with you from the standpoint of I mean, I can't think of a better fit for them, certainly. I mean, but you know, the analogy people keep using now is, I mean, look what happened with Newsweek and the Daily Beast. That didn't really.
Well, I mean, the handling.
The new owner of it bought it for $1.
That's right. Well, who did it was?
I can't remember the name.
I
of
know
the guy,
Barry
but
Diller
do you know
used to
about
own
that?
it, right? Did he sell it?
Only vaguely.
Yeah, they ended up. So they tried to combine Newsweek and the Daily Beast.
Daily Beast, right?
To turn it into a fully digital.
Yeah.
What I can't remember the woman's name.
It's Tina Brown.
Yeah, Tina Brown.
Yeah.
Obviously, it wasn't very successful. So the current buyer of Newsweek literally bought it for $1.
Oh, that is sad.
And took on $40 million of debt. So you bought it for $40 million and $1. But this is another thing. This is another thing that's also worth mentioning when we talk about the story. How much did the Post sell for? $250
million. Yeah.
Million dollars.
Yeah.
How much did Instagram sell for?
Yeah, but that's even like, I think he said 4 times above what it would actually have been worth. Like he paid a premium on it out of, I think, the goodness of his heart and his involvement with the Grahams.
Yeah, and you know, and we're talking about a family that's owned it forever. I mean, you know, they weren't going to go softly into the night on that one. But my point being that, you know, this is, I mean, it's an institution, right? I mean, it's, you know, it's certainly one of the most well known and respected papers in the country.
Yep.
And you can start a startup, and 2 years later, you can sell it for, you know, 10 times that.
Oh yeah.
It's very depressing.
Right, but I mean, what he was buying, and I mean, it was an act of good faith. Is he was buying those talented journalists. You know, he didn't buy the machinations of a print product. He bought the minds, and I think there's been a few people that have left already. I would hope that the bleeding, you know, sort of tapers off. But.
Well, I mean, you know, I'll say this. I mean, even if it doesn't, and this is just, you know, sad state of affairs of the industry that we're in, they're not going to have trouble filling in those.
No.
I mean, there's
not
plenty of very talented people out there who are looking for a job at a place like the Post. So I'm going to open things up to questions right now. We're pretty close to the 1 hour mark. I do want to close things off by, well, I'm going to give you guys the choice, and I feel like I might know where you're going to fall on the answer to this, but I've got 2 stories we can use to cap off the show right now. One of them is the story about the lab-grown burger, which Sergey Brin was involved in. The other one is Mars Explorer Barbie.
Man, that's a really tough choice. We have to pick.
We're running short.
I would like to talk about the burger.
That is not where I expected you to fall on that one.
Yeah, I would like to talk about the burger.
I'm a little surprised. I'm all right with talking about the burger.
We're talking about the burger?
We're going to talk about the burger.
I had 13
I mean,
years
Mars
of
Explorer Barbie.
vegetarianism.
No, that's a really good point. I mean, I have not had a hamburger in probably about a dozen years.
Yeah.
If you were offered a $40,000 burger, would you have taken a bite?
Knowing that it was not made.
If I was offered it, or if I had
killing
to pay
an
for
animal.
it?
No, if you were offered. If they were just like, here, take a bite of this lab-grown $40,000 hamburger. Okay.
Absolutely. You would too, and you're not a vegetarian.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little upset that only 2 people got to taste that. I'm like, really?
Yes, Sergey Brin was one of the 2 of them.
No, he wasn't. Was he? I thought he just funded it. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he was not one of the
did.
2 people.
No, that's disappointing.
They got some like world-renowned chef to cook it up with like this really absurdly elaborate burger recipe too, that I thought kind of defeated the purpose. If you were trying to see what it cooked up like, you should have like
have it just present the flavor.
Standard burger preparation. Don't screw it up. Salt, pepper, let it rest, grill it. Instead, it was like eggs and saffron and all sorts of crazy. Who puts saffron in a hamburger, by the way?
My aunt.
I just thought that's a thing. I'm not saying it's right, but that certainly is a thing. I agree with you that it should taste good off the grill, as it were.
Yeah, that's where we're supposed to be trying to go with this.
You should need to mask it in some pretty intense flavors.
Yeah,
that's true.
Okay, I guess we could talk about the Barbie one because I feel like that might be the end of that conversation.
Well, no, I mean, it was a really interesting point somebody I met on Twitter last night, which was like if you were a vegetarian because you were opposed to animals being slaughtered for meat, and here's something that's not coming from an animal that was slaughtered, what do you do? What do you suddenly? You know, what's the option there? Are you redefine your vegetarianism. I personally was a vegetarian because I did not enjoy steak, and it has all changed, as you both, full well know.
Because you weren't a human.
Because I was not.
You eventually became a real
I
boy.
love steak. I don't eat it. For me, it is purely ethical issues.
Okay. And somebody had asked me once years ago, why don't you eat meat? And I said, because I hate animals. And I stand by that, I think. But if I were still a vegetarian, I probably would try the burger out of curiosity. I wouldn't have any guilt associated, and I would see it as like a bizarre novelty. Like, to me, it wouldn't really be meat.
What would stand in your way of eating it if you're a vegetarian now and you're going for lab-grown meat? It's only at that point it's got to either just be a thing of health, because there's very little ethical issue there.
To me, this is like this is like going to the store and buying one of those like Morningstar burgers, right? You're eating something that was essentially created in a laboratory either way that kind of sort of tastes like a hamburger. And I miss hamburgers more than I miss steak at the end of the day.
That's understandable.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I'm gonna go have a hamburger.
But this does get in all
Mm.
sorts of other issues about just eating stuff that's made in laboratories. I mean, I told you this, and I stopped drinking diet soda recently because
Thank
of
goodness.
all the chemicals and stuff that go into that.
Yeah.
So we're kind of going down that road.
That stuff is terrible for you.
So lab-grown hamburgers?
I'm fine with them. I eat them.
Jury's
I mean,
still-
it's a little bit different. I feel like growing cells in a petri dish and forming them into a patty is different than throwing a bunch of chemicals in a box or in a bottle and telling you to ingest it and pretend that it's actually food. Because this is still technically at least natural meat. This is, perhaps...
It's not like you're making a McDonald's burger in a petri dish. That would be different.
I'm just saying all those chemicals were made from natural elements in a laboratory too.
I mean, I suppose, but a lot of them were not meant to be ingested.
Right.
Yeah,
you're
that's the
not
difference.
getting aspartame
That's
in the
The
lab
difference
grown
is
burger.
is a purely health thing.
Yeah,
If those
I mean-
chemicals were fine for you, it wouldn't be as much of an issue.
Oh, I'm not a person who doesn't eat things because of how they were created. I'm only don't eat things for health reasons. That's like I don't drink soda because there's no need to put high fructose corn syrup in my body unless it's unavoidable. But I will sure as hell every so often enjoy the hell out of a Twinkie, and that's nothing but chemicals.
There's a really good book on that. Have you seen that? The Twinkie Deconstructed, about like starting from mining things out of
No, but now I need to read
Yeah.
it. It's gonna go on my
and going
list
all the way
right
up.
now.
We don't actually have any questions right now, so let's talk about Barbie.
Okay, so I admittedly don't know what the Barbie thing is.
Okay. Has anybody in this room, Joe included, has anybody in this room ever owned a Barbie?
My sister had lots of them, and my brother and I would melt them.
You'd melt them.
Well, we would melt them with our G.I. Joes, so we would sort of create fused entities. We got in a lot of trouble.
Have you owned a Barbie?
I have not owned a Barbie. I had
have
a
a sister.
sister who owned
Okay.
Barbies.
Joe, Barbies? No.
It's okay if you own them. It's okay.
If you knew
Safe space.
that Barbie,
Joe's like, no.
if you knew that Barbie was going to be the first woman on Mars, would that change your mind?
I would want the Barbie skin to be like red or something, because Venusians are pink.
She hasn't been to Mars yet, who
And
knows what's gonna
she's
happen when
not
she gets back.
actually from Mars.
I want.
We're talking
I know what you're
astronaut.
saying. I want
For
her
the
to have
record,
green
women are
hair.
from Mars.
Yes.
Yeah, but I want
No,
her to
men
have,
are from Mars.
Men are
Men are
from
from.
Mars.
Oh, darn it! Obviously,
Displaying our complete lack of understanding of pop
Okay.
culture.
No. I would
Who
want
moved
her.
my cheese?
I would want her to have red skin and green hair and like little antennas.
So you wanted to be a Star Trek character.
Yes.
Strawberry shortcake. I think there are dolls for you out there.
There definitely are, but I'm past my doll phase.
This is nice. Barbie's.
Wait, so
Mars
why is
Explorer.
Barbie going to Mars?
Barbie's Barbie? This is Barbie Mars Explorer, which for some unexplainable reason we hit on our website.
There is not that is
Wait,
that is not
Barbie-
an unexplainable reason.
There's literally nothing tech about this.
Somebody explain it to me.
So
Darren.
Barbie has no.
So Darren Murph,
Darren Murph and me.
Darren Murph and Terrence O'Brien, go on.
I insisted that we hit this,
Okay.
and Darren was with me. So, but Barbie has the like career line where like
Yeah.
they just like dollar up for different jobs, and the most recent one they just announced the other day was Barbie Mars Explorer,
Okay.
where they put her in
Oh.
a concept
Guys.
astronaut uniform for the manned mission to Mars. It was done with
Okay,
a
that's-
partnership with NASA.
That's neat, but I thought that they were actually sending a Barbie doll to
No,
Mars
but
on that first expedition.
we should
I'm sure that's
petition
going to
NASA
happen.
to put one on the next
Yeah,
rover.
That's what I thought. 'Cause
What is the price of sending it to Mars? That'll probably be only $5 million when you really break it down per.
so
and,
what?
and they'd make that
Let's
money
do
back
it.
so
No, I'm
quick.
saying
I mean, it's like
Bezos
an
could do it.
insane marketing thing. Just like, hey,
Bezos
we're
should
literally
do
going
it.
to put Barbie on the moon.
Good.
On Mars.
I hope they made that buy-in.
That would be huge. That would be so. That would get them so much marketing attention. I want my finder's fee for that one, please.
So
by the way,
Barbie, Mars Barbie is out soon. $13.
something like that. I don't know.
I think it's important. I
I'm
think it's important
pre-ordering
that
it now.
Barbie is really like taking initiative here.
I like Barbie that encourages girls to be nerds. Is
go to
basically
Mars.
what it's. Whether
Mars,
it's
like-
yeah,
Then it should be called Marby or Narby.
This has been the Engadget podcast for the week.
That's
of,
where you wanna go
August
out?
the
Don't
5th.
end it yet.
Thanks for joining us, Joseph.
Well, no. Look,
What?
I have more things.
I can't do another outro.
There's so much more. Yes,
All
you
right,
can.
you will hear Joseph on the upcoming mobile podcast
No, you won't. It happened yesterday. I
at
wasn't on
Joseph
it.
Volpe.
You will.
At
No, it
Joseph
is not
Volpe? I
at.
don't
Is at Jr. Volpe. And
Junior
Volpe
Volpe.
means fox.
Junior Fox
Which
on Twitter at Terrence O'Brien. I'm at Bee Eater. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Brian sounds so sad.
I'm gonna miss you guys.
I know.
I'll miss
Let's
you
take
too.
this conversation offline.
Okay.
We will catch you next week on another episode of the Engadget podcast.
Ciao.